Hello my friends and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming, and in today's video, sponsored by the makers of Rise of Kingdoms, I'm going to update my Legendary Commander investment tier list. A video I make every couple months sharing with you the best Legendary Commanders to invest in right now that will get you value for a very long time. And if you're subscribed to the channel, then you already know this, but you can use the timestamps to jump to whichever part you'd like. And you also know that the way this list is oriented is as follows. The top priority commanders are the ones that you should invest your sculptures into first. These are the commanders that I think are going to have lasting value in Rise of Kingdoms. After you have done these commanders, then I would look to the low priority list of commanders as good follow-on projects beyond just like saving for the next commander release, which is also a good idea. We got a lot to talk about with archers on the topic of upcoming commander releases. Then we've got before Season of Conquest, so things to do before you get to the end game. Niche role is the commanders that you should only work on if you know exactly what you're doing. You've done these other projects above, and you know, the low priority, top priority stuff's in a good place. This is mostly endgame players, right, and whales. The just know category is the series of commanders that I am aware of no good reason to work on them at this moment in time, other than things like auxiliary skills or KVKs where you can sort of retrieve their skills and bring them back from the dead to make them somewhat relevant again, all right? And the first thing we need to do is account for the two new commanders, okay? We're going to place Tokugawa up here in the niche role category. I think he's going to be an awesome garrison. I think he's going to be really great with Gorgo, but he's not an open field commander. And then we got to put BQ in here. And if you were subscribed to the channel, then you know I just fought with BQ, and he is the truth, man. BQ is actually outstanding. So I'm going to put BQ all the way up at the top as probably the best commander investment right now. Now, I couldn't tell you who's really better. Is it Liu Cha or is it BQ? It might actually be the Liu Cha, but directionally, the three of them all being up here is really good. I say the three of them because you're like, wait, Chisgule, you got four commanders there, and we're going to move one down because 3 infantry and top priority is insane. The weirdness here is specifically with Ragnar, okay? Ragnar Prime. I was 99% confident that BQ was going to have some sort of skill damage alternative, and he didn't. The weirdness means that although Ragnar Prime is extremely good, what is the future of skill damage for infantry? I have absolutely no clue. I have zero way to predict for you. I would have guessed that BQ was going to follow the approach for Shajar, where she's got 2 modes. I thought he would have 2 modes. So now I have no clue what to recommend to you with regard to infantry skill damage. I can tell you he's good. I can tell you he's actually outstanding. But I'm going to jump him down to low priority and leave these 3 commanders up at the top priority. These 3 I feel extremely comfortable. They're so uncontroversial. Anyone would tell you that these 3 commanders are outstanding to invest in Rise of Kingdoms. Like, no questions asked. They are amazing. BQ even worked with Philip in a way that was actually kind of shocking. In fact, now that I mentioned Philip, and now that we know that Philip with BQ is actually really good, I'm going to put Philip all the way at the front of low priority. I originally put him further back because I was like, man, you know, look, not everybody's even got 5 marches, okay, let alone 7, which is what I feel like is optimal for someone like Philip that's buffing multiple marches to really want to put them in their lineup. What I said last time was that if you have 7 marches that you run in the open field, I'd put Philip up here. Otherwise, he was kind of back over here. But now that we have like yet another commander pairing that just is incredible all on its own with Philip, like if he's good on his own and he's buffing all these other marches, he's just, in my eyes, getting better and better and better in terms of his relative performance. And I've got to give credit where credit is due to the makers of Rise of Kingdoms for having some incredible commander releases lately. Like, you look at Arthur, and he's interesting, he's different, he's fun. You look at BQ, he's interesting, he's different, he's fun. In fact, I would argue that BQ being viable with so many different pairings is really exciting. And then you've got Philip, who's also the GOAT. Ragnar was an outstanding addition. All of these commanders were really, really outstanding additions, which contrasts really, really starkly with the sort of prior wave of commanders, which seemed to be maybe designed to be like focused on specific things, but they aren't good enough at those things to be really clear. Like, were they supposed to be open field, or were they supposed to be specialists? I'm talking about like Belisarius Prime as an example, and we're of course talking about Shajar. Now, in the last tier list that I did, I was really, 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 really confident that we would get an AoE true damage dealer that would bring Shajar into top tier relevance, because otherwise they must be killing off true damage, right? They have to release something that makes true damage pop off. And they're actually just going to kill true damage as far as I can tell. I mean, maybe they will, maybe they won't, but I have to take Shajar out of the column of commanders that I would think are safe to invest in. And unfortunately, she just drops really far down at this point in time. I'm not confident we will get more true damage. And if we aren't getting more true damage, she's not going to be great. She is good in Canyon. Okay, don't get me wrong. She does great things in Canyon, but if you're investing in commanders specifically because of Canyon, you're making a deep error. And let me clarify that. All your investments in this game are a multiplier on your troop effectiveness, okay? Like when you have better commanders, it's basically a multiplier on your speed ups. It's a multiplier on your resources. And, you know, it depends on whether or not your KVK is won by momentum or draining your opponent. But at the end of the day, having a stronger lineup achieves both of those things, right? You can get more momentum, where if all that matters is that you win this one fight, having a better lineup helps. But also, it's a multiplier the better you trade for your resources and speed ups. So what I'm trying to tell you is, well, if you're not using this commander for the open field, then they're not being a great multiplier for your resources and speed ups. So GG, not a good invest. In fact, I would say a couple things. I would say that in this most recent pass opening I had, where I got to use BQ and fight with him a bunch, I only used one archer march, and I used 5 other marches on the field. So it was 1 archer, 2 cavalry, 2 infantry, and 1 leadership infantry. And that's what I did. So all that to say, Shajar was like the first pairing I was there to bench. It was actually Asher Benapal and Shajar that got benched, and it was Zhuge Liang paired with Hermann Prime that stayed in the mix. And I debated for this list, should I bump up Hermann Prime? But I think the answer is no. I do think that Archer skill damage is going to be more of a focus moving forward, potentially. But I do not think that I would put Hermann Prime back up there, because yet again, we still have all these commanders that no longer care about skill damage, so his main role of being a skill damage enhancer is not as good. Now, I would say he's definitely better than Shajar. He's definitely better than Asher Benapal. We'll bump him over, okay? But I wouldn't bump him up. I also am not going to bump up William. I don't want to have more than three commanders of any one troop type combined between top priority and low priority. At the end of the day, right, I would advocate most people should have only 2 armies of each troop type at most, which means that the 4th best commander is the first to get removed. Hence, they are a bad investment. I think William, not Ragnar Prime, would be the first infantry commander you remove when new infantry show up. Now, we just got BQ. It's going to be a while before that's the case. But again, this list is about long-term investments, not short-term optimizations. So with that said, I'm even kind of tempted to bump down the Huo and bump down the Zhuge Liang. There just aren't that many commanders right now that are good to invest in or safe to invest in for a very long-term sort of time horizon. And why is that the case? Well, the reason that's the case is that Ragnar Prime's entry into the game marked a jump in power level. So, actually, maybe Liu Che was kind of the first here, but it's not a coincidence that besides like Liu Che, all these other commanders are recent commanders. The recent commanders are just a tier or 4 or 5 above the other commanders. So, that's just my perspective, and I'm exaggerating, I think, but like compare BQ to Shajar, not the same universe, right? Compare Arthur to Belly Prime, right? Like not at all the same universe. So the power level has gone way up on new commanders, which I think players are really enjoying. Certainly, I'm really enjoying it. Now, that said, there's a couple commanders that I'm very tempted to get a look at that are currently in the just no category. One of those commanders is actually CJ, and I'm putting him to the front of this category. This is the just no category. Commanders you should never invest in under any circumstance. And I think that if you are before Season of Conquest, you could theoretically work on CJ. I think that if you are before Season of Conquest, you could theoretically work on Bertrand. These commanders are getting buffed. CJ is going to have a smite kit. Bertrand is going to have a combo kit. And I think they could be decent as a stepping stone to what you do in the end game. Now, that said, there's no museum buff for CJ or Bertrand at this time, which means that they, in my opinion, are not going to be viable in the end game. So, unlike Alex, who I think is extremely viable in the end game, I'm not yet sure about CJ and Bertrand. I feel like if you were a whale and you maxed them in the early game, you would definitely use them until you got better in the end game. In fact, I think you could probably do some pretty decent stuff with Arthur paired with Bertrand, but I don't know that it's going to be better. In fact, I'm feeling pretty confident it wouldn't be better than just doing Arthur with William for combo, which is what I've been doing and just absolutely loving, man. That has served me so well. So, I'm putting them here to sort of give the head nod to say, hey, these might actually have some relevance here. Certainly in the early game, I think they will be extremely relevant, but will they carry meaningful relevance into the end game? I mean, I think they'll be great stepping stones to better stuff while you work on these other commanders, right? So, like, if you got to Season of Conquest and you're like, okay, I took Arthur to 5-5-1-1 and I'm going to pair him with the Bertrand I worked on before. Okay, like, reasonable, right? Like, super reasonable. If you get the Liu Chen, it's like, well, I worked on CJ, so I'll pair them together. Probably reasonable, right? Like, we're still pre-testing. So once they're in-game, I'll test with them. I'll give you all that information so that we've got like a better understanding of how good they actually are. And I'm definitely looking forward to doing that, all right? So that kind of covers the entirety of this list here, and I'll scroll through all of the other commanders in the game here, and you can see the overwhelming volume of commanders here are in this just no category. I will say you could argue for Tariq Ibn Ziyad being more relevant for rallying, but now that the pincer formation is kind of out as well, I think that's probably not the case. It feels to me like for rallying, people are moving more in on, like, more all in on smite and pincer and kind of like arch as an alternative, not the main way to do it, but we'll see. Now I'm kind of off on a tangent. So big picture, I think this is a pretty solid list. With regard to my infantry recommendations, you've got BQ, LC, and Ragnar. For the archer recommendations, you've actually got Zhuge Liang and Philip. I think that's probably like Zhuge primary, Philip secondary is what you'd use as your one archer march for now, weirdly enough. You could run it the other way if you had the leadership gear for it. Huo and Arthur are the only cavalry that I think are great to start working on today. I do sort of feel like Joan is not it, right? She's good, you'll use her, but it's too late to start investing in her. It's too late to start investing in Nevsky, in my opinion. They had their heyday. They're still great, but not great to start investing in now. Even Huo, you can see I've put all the way at the end here. It's like, yeah, that is the last commander I'd recommend that you start as a project now. Because even then, he may become replaced in the not too distant future. So we'll kind of see where he ends up. I am optimistic that he's still got some longevity to him, right? And then we've got the siege commanders here who are outstanding. And like, weirdly enough, I haven't heard anybody say the new siege are better. So I think the new siege give you more ability to make ranged towers, but not necessarily better towers. But I'm not really a siege expert, so that's not my specialty in the same way that infantry is. And BQ is a freaking masterpiece. Okay, now again, between the two of them, I'm not sure who would be the number one top dog here, but feel very good about both of them being in that top row. Enjoyed the vid, throw a like on here, subscribe. If you want to see me fight with BQ and the crazy reports that I got, check the card in the end screen. It'll be right over here. This literally like just happened as of the time of this recording, so I think you'll enjoy it. All right, until next time, you have fun smashing your enemies. Take care, everybody.